Welcome once again, nerds, to the news. This is going to be a very special rumors and suggestions mostly episode. There's tons of Disney and Marvel rumors to power the rumor mill, not the least of which we have Thor 5, as well as some Doctor Doom shaking things up, some DCU stuff in there for good flavor, plus a bunch more rumors, and a little bit of news on top to keep this going through this couple of weeks. And let's just jump right into it. Okay, so first things first, we have housekeeping, because we're not going to get rid of the housekeeping section just because we have a change in format. Though, in the housekeeping section, we are going to address the change in format. First and foremost, we are late with this episode. Once again, last week's episode was partially because of scheduling issues, partially because of new editing techniques I'm attempting to do, which, you know, probably should have waited until the off season, but it is what it is. And also partially because the YouTube copyright system is a little broken. When you're reporting on news, you should be able to use the content on which you're reporting to report on it, but yeah, some record labels just don't see it that way. Anyway, so yeah, that's last week, but this week we're late because, again, more scheduling conflicts. And I hopefully have an interview lined up for the off season, or at least an agreement for an interview during the off season. I'm gonna keep that under wraps until we get a little bit more cemented in, I guess is probably the appropriate way to do that. But it is with an up and coming amazing band that I just saw yesterday, actually. So yeah, hopefully that comes through, but not necessarily holding my breath for that. Next week, so I thought it was only going to be 1 week that was going to be the rumors and suggestions episode. Thought it was only going to be this week. It looks like very potentially next week is going to be affected as well. And then the week following is going to be our final week for the regular season, and then we will go into the off season where it will be a live format. Probably, like I was saying previously, probably Tuesday evenings is when the live is going to happen. So once again, if you are listening in post, if you are not watching on the YouTube, then very likely nothing is going to change for you. If you do the watch on YouTube, then it's going to be a live show Tuesday nights. If you want to catch the VOD after the fact, then nothing necessarily will change, except for it'll be on time. And yeah, thank you. And obviously the way that the news is covered is going to be different because I'm not editing anything. I'm just talking to the chat room or to myself or whomever happens to show up. So if you want to contribute during the off season, if you want to just let your voice be heard, or you just want to come by and say hey and you know, be friendly for a little while, you'll probably get on the show, and that's the only way to get on the show as it stands right now. Hopefully, long-term goals, that will not be an issue, but again, playing a lot of that stuff close to the chest. Anyway, I'm rambling. That is the housekeeping section. Let's get into... So the other thing about this week's format is we're changing. We're still going to have most of the sections, if for nothing else than for a suggestion for comic books, music, etc., etc. But we will have a full and proper rumor mill, and then also on top of that, if there was something that happened in each individual section that just could not wait to be reported on until 2 weeks out, then that will be covered in here. So we do have a little bit of gaming and tech, we have a little bit of movies, very little bit of TV news, and I believe that's it outside of suggestions for everything. So again, housekeeping over, let's get into the news, shall we? In music this week, there is no news. There's nothing that couldn't wait until later or was just so huge that we had to report on it. So hopefully next week we'll see a little bit of this. I actually am anticipating probably doing about 3 to 5 new music pieces next week as well. So keep that in mind. I'm not, you know, committing to that just yet, but it is on the hopeful list for next week's episode. We have no new music though. Again, no tours or anything that were absolutely mind-blowing, like, oh my god, Nine Inch Nails is taking Rammstein on tour. Nothing like that. That would be something that must be reported on. However, that didn't happen. So all we have is music suggestion for the week. I'm going to go with Static X Wisconsin Death Trip, the original Evil Disco, and with the passing of Wayne Static and with Zero as the frontman for the live shows, and then now 2 posthumous records. This band is just as alive today as it was, you know, 15 years ago before Wayne passed. So yeah, that's pretty freaking significant considering that Wayne has been gone for, I believe, approximately 14. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It's about 10 years. It'll be 10 years next year. I think he passed in 14. So yeah, just this is such a fun record. Standout tracks, obviously, Wisconsin Death Trip, Push It, Loser, just the whole dang thing from front to back is a whole hell of a lot of fun. And I must say, if you have the opportunity to see this band live, even in their post-Wayne Static era, which, you know, this is the only way you're going to see them live now, absolutely jump at the chance because these guys are phenomenal live. That is your music suggestion for the week. That takes us into gaming and tech. We do have some news in the gaming and tech side of things this week. First up, it kind of had to be addressed. I don't know we're going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but Mortal Kombat 1, the Halloween situation has kind of come to a head. And as you're watching this, Halloween is no more. Happy late Halloween, by the way, nerds. So yeah, the fatality, we got to talk about this. I saw a theory before, as I was doing research, before I came up to film, saying that potentially this is just one of many holiday themed fatalities, and so you pay the one-time fee for all the holiday fatalities, and that's why it's so expensive. But the community is a bit up in arms over the price of this fatality. It's a single fatality. Granted, you can do it with everyone in the main roster, but it's still the same animation, just the skin effectively is different. And it's kind of cool. Like, there's a bunch of cool little Easter eggs and stuff, but it's temporary. And also, none of the vocabulary coming from NetherRealm suggests that there are going to be more holiday fatalities, or that you're not going to have to pay for future holiday fatalities if they do exist, if you've paid for this one. There is absolutely nothing that suggests that, so don't hold your breath. But it is approximately $10 to buy this fatality. The Scorpion, what is it, Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance skin was cheaper. A skin that the community actually has been asking for some time, that they knew they were going to make a whole bunch of money on because everybody was going to buy it. That skin was cheaper than the skin, or than the Halloween fatality, and that is egregious to me. Like, I'm not too proud to admit that I did spend some of my Dragon Crystals on the fatality, just because I had them from my collector's edition. I don't know what the hell else I'm going to spend them on. I kind of honestly regret spending them on this fatality. I've used it a couple of times and it goes away. I think that's the biggest issue that most people have. It is just to kind of lay it out explicitly, it is 1,200 Dragon Crystals. So if you buy your Dragon Crystals, if you just buy the lowest tier of Dragon Crystals, that is theoretically $12 worth of real world currency, because you have to buy Dragon Crystals. You can earn them in very small quantities, but not necessarily enough to purchase this plus other things if you want to do other things with the Dragon Crystals, which I believe they're used for the premium items that are the rotating stock in the store, though I could be misremembering that because I don't look at the store very often. But either way, it goes away. You're spending The reason I say $10 and not $12 is because you can buy 1,250 dragon crystals for $10. So that's effectively paying for this fatality. And that's still too much. Like, if they had made this the dragon, because it's a fatality, it's seasonal, so it's theoretically going to be leaving us, it's not going to be coming back, make that like a couple hundred dragon crystals, like 200 dragon crystals, because then when next Halloween comes and you have a new Halloween fatality, I won't feel like I've been ripped off for paying $2 to $3 worth of my real hard-earned money for the thing that it's a big deal. I have not seen anyone justifying NetherRealm's doing here. I guess it's technically Warner Brothers doing, but either way, nobody's trying to say that this is a good thing. So that's, I guess, a good thing in the community, but still kind of sucks, and probably way too many of us actually put the crystals in. Though, to my defense, I did not spend extra money on this. I just already had the crystals, so I used them, and I regret it. Anyway, continuing on, we have actually a very big developing story right now. As I was coming again to film, a little bit more has been divulged with the Bungie situation that's going on between Sony and their subsidiary company, Bungie. So Bungie, for those that probably potentially don't know, there's got to be one or two of you out there, right? Bungie is the company that brought us Halo. They were bought by Sony just a few years ago, and so now they're making not Sony exclusive Destiny, but kind of like it's, I don't know. I've tried to play it on my Xbox and run into a few issues that I don't think Sony players have, but that's neither here nor there. So the big news here is that Bungie, when they got purchased, Sony said that basically everyone's jobs were safe, and they actually set aside some money in order to retain the key elements of the company so that they could, you know, develop something new for Sony. Well, here we are a few years later, and it seems that Bungie has not followed through exactly with their end of the deal. So it has been learned that approximately 8% of Bungie's workforce, which is only like 100 people, so there's still over 1,000 employees at Bungie. So this isn't like the end of Bungie as you know it, like many people are putting in thumbnails, because that's just silly. 1,000 employees is still plenty, 8% of the workforce. While some of them are people that theoretically are going to be very important, or would have been rather very important to the company, because they're the head of their departments, as it were. One of them is the composer, one of them is a lead designer, I believe. But again, 100 people were let go. This is affecting the company as a whole. The final shape, the final DLC for Destiny 2, theoretically the final DLC for Destiny 2, has been put on hold, as well as their other game that they have in the works that they showed us this year at the Sony's E3 non-E3 event called Marathon, which is a remake of the game that they made pre-Halo, so back when they were not owned by Microsoft. So all of that stuff has been put on hold, and no new release dates have been made known just yet, because it seems like the dust is still settling. Like I said, some of this information was just released this morning before I came to film. So this is a developing situation. As this develops, we will be talking about it. This will be more of the we can't miss it for next week, should some more developments happen. And then our final piece of can't skip news is Twitter. Elon has evolved the creator program just a little bit, because this is something we've been talking about. That's why we just couldn't skip this, because I'm sure there are some people out there who are gaming the system. Actually, let's take that step back. I'm sure there are some people out there who are trying to qualify for the creator program on Twitter, and they're seeing that there are creators on the platform who are effectively gaming the system that Elon had set up, in that they're making very inflammatory and very shocking posts in order to drive engagement, because that's what the creator program is based on, is the amount of engagement that each post gets, and the amount of replies and reposts and things is how they determine how much money you are owed from the creator program. Well, in order to stop this, in order to stop people from posting fake news, in order to stop people from just saying things that are demonstrably false, Elon has evolved the creator program to correct if you post something that is demonstrably false and you get community guidelines correcting the thing that you've said, then you are no longer, that post at least, is no longer eligible for monetization. So it doesn't matter how long the thread is that follows. If there is community notes that are correcting you, then you are ineligible, which is a little bit worrying, just slightly. And I say that and it sounds like I'm being sarcastic, and I'm not. I have noticed on Twitter, there have been people who have made a post that is seemingly inflammatory or seemingly goes against certain people's belief structures as far as the way the world works. And it still gets community guidelines, but the community guideline notes basically say what the post originally said. So I don't know if there's going to be, there was nothing in any of the literature that was released. It was basically just Elon saying it on Twitter. But if we can find out the details of this, then we will be returning to this piece. But I don't know if there is a team that is called in if the algorithm is incorrect. Like I said, if you make a statement saying A plus B equals C, and then you get community guidelines because you are a talking head, you are a personality that people have to disagree with, they feel compelled to disagree with, and they write a community guidelines, and the community guidelines then also says A plus B equals C. There's still a community guidelines attachment to your post because they found some weird wording issue or something, but the general information is still the same. I don't know if that post is going to be eligible for monetization, even though the community guidelines are pointless. Like, if I can find that information, we'll talk about it again. I'm sorry I keep rambling. But that is all we have for gaming and tech that we just could not pass up. So let's talk about the gaming and tech suggestion for the week. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1 came out this week. So that is the obvious suggestion. If you have a Switch, I would recommend getting it for the Switch. I realize there is a 30 frame cap on the Switch. It's fine. That's what these games that's what, at the very least, the first game launched at was 30 frames. So no reason. And it's a Switch. The whole point is you're taking these awesome games with you in your pocket wherever you go. So like, that's kind of the best way to play the OG Metal Gear stuff. So, and also you have Nintendo games on there that also run at 30 frames per second. So you're really only limiting Metal Gear 2 and Metal Gear 3. And even then, like, they're so old at this point, is it really that limiting? Whatever. That is absolutely your recommendation this week, unless, you just want to play some Mortal Kombat, in which case hit me up, because I'm looking for people to play. That is suggestions for gaming and tech. Let's move into comic books and books. We have nothing in this section. So let's get to the suggestion. Suggestion this week for comic books and books. Walking Dead. The original Walking Dead, what was it? The Days Gone By was the name of the first arc, and Robert Kirkman's writing in the first like 3 arcs or so is really fast-paced. A lot happens from one panel to the next, let alone from one page to the next. So you kind of have to adjust the way you read comic books because he has a very different style. But this is the setup for the entire universe that we know and love at this point. That is The Walking Dead, the TV show, the comic books, etc., etc., etc. So that is your comic book suggestion for the week. Go reminisce over some awesome black and white Walking Dead. From there, let's move into TV. We do have two pieces here in TV. I'm going to start with the really big downer first, and that is, I'm sure you've already heard, but unless you live under a rock, in which case, welcome. But yeah, Matthew Perry, the passing of Matthew Perry, Chandler from Friends. So he passed away. Some of the toxicology has come back, and so they have ruled out certain drugs. They do know he was not on some drugs, but I haven't seen the complete toxicology report just yet, so there is still a possibility that it was drug related. But he was found drowned in his hot tub. He was 59 years old, and that's the cold bits. Let's talk about the warm and awesome parts of who Matthew Perry was, because the show Friends was a pretty major influence, not necessarily influence, but was a major part of my high school and post-high school career, because it brought me closer together with actually a number of my friends, and was just such a bonding experience basically every week whenever the new episodes launched, or after new episodes stopped, watching the DVDs with friends. Honestly, we would watch them at parties or we would watch them after parties while we were, people were sobering up or whatever. So it was, I mean, that show and all of those characters very much touched me. It touched my life in some way. And the character of Chandler was kind of an element, at least at the time, as far as I saw it, of my personality. It felt like a bit of a Chandler and a bit of a Joey. And the fact that I can say that is gotta show you how old I am. But just, I honestly feel like a large portion of why the show Friends worked so well was Matthew Perry as Chandler. Just that character always was there to ground. If there was some really silly TV thing happening, he was there to call it out as silly. He was there to be almost the vehicle through which the audience related to whatever was happening on screen. Not always, honestly. Every one of those characters was super awesome to that degree in some way. I just feel like more often than the rest of them, it was on Chandler's shoulders in order to be like, this is just a silly show and we're silly people and it's a fun thing that we do, and I'm going to show you that we acknowledge this. And I think that's a big part of the reason, that's the big part of what humanized those characters. It's a big part of what people really saw themselves in, because yes, we can put aside the fact that it's a TV show because we just addressed it, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes of what is actually happening. And again, this is all on Matthew Perry's shoulders. It really was heartbreaking to see the reunion, the Friends reunion on Max, and just kind of how he's let himself go, and now the passing just really hit me. I feel like when I saw the announcement, it was pretty heavy. So we're going to take a moment and remember some great Chandler Bing moments, and remember Matthew Perry, because he was a man. He was more than just Chandler. And yeah, let's take that moment real quick.
This is harder than I thought it would be. Do you guys have to go to the new house right away, or do you have some time? We got some time. Okay, should we get some coffee?
Sure. Where?
Okay, so we have one other piece of news that we could not skip. It is a follow-up piece because we've been talking about this, but the Poltergeist, the IP that was purchased by Prime, I'm pretty sure. No, purchased by MGM, because it's here in the notes. I actually took that in the notes. Purchased by MGM. And then MGM was purchased by Amazon, and Amazon wants to focus on IP that has an established audience, and they want to do things that'll bring that audience in. So these are all sounding like good possibilities associated with the new Poltergeist series. It is going to be a series that they're doing to reboot this IP. It is not going to be another movie. The last reboot movie was not very good. But the first movie in this franchise, the thing that started it all, is kind of a horror classic. So let's hope that they can understand what makes the first movie a classic and expand on that in a way that makes a series make sense instead of rebooting it with another movie. So yeah, that is in the works. It is officially happening. Amazon is moving forward with the MGM thing, and that's what we have for TV news this week. So suggestions in TV, we're talking Upload. Season 3 is currently happening on Amazon Prime. I honestly, it's driving me a little bit crazy that they only post, I think it's an episode a week now. I want to binge my shows, man. I understand that I appreciate the shows more when I'm not binging them, because anticipation, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? So, and they're doing a hell of a job with Upload. It's a goofy show. It is science fiction, so of course I'm going to be more inclined to, but Robbie Amell in this show just is... He's playing two different versions of himself at this point, and it's just really interesting to see how you can add just a little... I mean, he's not the best actor in the world, but you can add just a little bit of depth to a performance like that and really make it just that much more enjoyable to watch. So, not incredibly deep, but a whole hell of a lot of fun. Go watch Upload this week. That is your suggestion.
Oh, okay, nerds. Yeah. It's that time. Just, we're about to take a break, so you should be subscribed so you know when we come back and you can get the news again, and you can see my pretty face doing all the things. Yeah. I guess that's it. Just subscribe and stuff, and we'll see you next time. Back to the news. Whatever.
That brings us into the movies section. Movies, we have a few things that were on the can't skip list. They're mostly follow-ups. Actually, no, they're all follow-ups. So let's get into those. First up, we have Highlander. The Henry Cavill project is finally moving forward, and the budget has been announced that they will be throwing approximately $100 million at this movie. I don't remember who exactly is the studio behind it, but we have Chad Stileski is the director, and he was noteworthy, but I don't remember why, because I didn't put it in the notes. So the thing to take away from this is Henry Cavill is going to be playing Connor McLeod, or not Connor McLeod, that was the TV show. I can't remember the character from the movies, whatever. He's going to be the guy in the movies that was originally played by Christopher Lambert. That's where Cavill's going to be. Yeah, so it's happening. It's moving forward. That's all we really know right now. Let's continue on. Next up, we have Samaritan, the sequel to the Sylvester Stallone superhero movie where he was the Samaritan, effectively. And yeah, it's getting a sequel. It's Amazon Prime throwing more money at things that seemingly are working, because the original movie here didn't do great, but it made some money. So if it made a little bit of money, maybe we can tweak it a little bit, make it a little bit better, and send out a sequel, and it'll make a little bit more money, right? That's kind of how this should work. So yeah, sequel to Samaritan's happening, and then Ghostbusters, that was the other one. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is the new title to the sequel to Ghostbusters Afterlife. They have apparently finished filming. They actually apparently finished filming before the actors' strike started. So they have been in post-production for about 3 months at this point, so hopefully that means we will be seeing at least some sort of teaser before the end of the year, if not the movie, but probably not the movie. That's what we got for the Can't Skip in movies. So let's get into movie suggestion for the week, and that is Dr. Sleep, streaming right now on HBO Max, or on Max, I guess. Stephen King adaptation. The movie is really cool for a number of reasons. Mike Flanagan directed it, and I believe is one of the writers on on it as well. Mike Flanagan is one of the best directors in the horror genre right now, and has been for some time at this point. And he does a really great job of doing a sequel, not just to the movie that most people know at this point, which was a Stanley Kubrick movie, but also throwing some stuff in there from the novel. Granted, it is leaning very hard on the movie side of things, but there's definitely some call-outs to the novel as well. So it's really cool. Really, it's not the best horror movie you're ever going to see, but it is so damn much fun, and it is just really cool to kind of see a different person's take on this very familiar ground, especially when that person is Mike Flanagan. I absolutely would recommend going to see Dr. Sleep, or streaming it rather, on Max, or paying money for the DVD. Honestly, is not out of the question for this one either. So that is your suggestion for the week. And that brings us into this week's Rumor Mill. Rumor Mill is huge. Like I said, we have Thor 5, we have Doctor Doom, we have some Avengers stuff, we have a whole slew of Marvel just in general. Things are canceled, things are not canceled. DC, things are not canceled. Things are coming out that don't make any sense. Let's get into all of that, shall we? We have no confirmations or refutations this week, but we do have a couple of new sources for old rumors. And the first one, honestly, probably could have gone in the new rumors category, but it's kind of been back and forth for a minute. And that is Constantine 2. The Keanu Reeves starring sequel has been kind of in talks for about a year now. We heard originally that was going to happen, and then the James Gunn, Peter Safran thing happened with DC, and now then they were saying it wasn't going to happen, and then it was, and then it wasn't, and now it's back on, apparently. We have word from someone involved. I can't remember if it was the screenwriter or one of the producers, but it wasn't the director and it wasn't Keanu. No, it was the director. I take that back. It absolutely was the director, but that still doesn't necessarily mean that the heads over at DC or Warner Brothers have approved it. But according to the director, the would-be director, we're going to say, because it is technically rumor, according to the would-be director, there are still gears in motion for the Constantine 2 movie. So it is still on the table and still a viable option moving forward. So next one, we have Venom 3. We have a new rumor stating that Tom Holland is going to make an appearance as Spider-Man in the third Venom movie. It's just going to be a little while because strikes are a thing. Next is Deadpool 3. We have another freaking source saying that Taylor Swift is in fact going to be playing Dazzler. Oh boy. This one goes on to say that they have even seen the director out in public with Taylor Swift. So that is kind of their logic behind saying, even though it has already been shot down, that it's not happening. This is kind of adding a little bit of credence though, because seeing the director out in public with Taylor Swift kind of is starting to make this seem a little bit more viable. So there is that. And then revisiting again Mortal Kombat 1. We're actually going to talk new rumors about Mortal Kombat 1 in a second, but we have a new source coming out and saying that yes, we will be in fact seeing the T-1000 Terminator as voiced by Robert, what's his name? Robert Patrick? Robert James? Something? James Patrick? I can't think of his name right now. But yeah, the guy who played him in T2 is going to be doing the voice for the Mortal Kombat. I mean, again, this is another one that as these sources start coming out saying, yeah, this is a thing, it definitely lends it a lot more credence and is much more a viable rumor. But we don't do percentages for new sources. We only do percentages for new rumors. So yeah, let's come out the gate swinging with these new rumors, shall we? We have a big shakeup going on in Marvel, Disney Marvel right now, and so we have apparently 4 movies: Blade, Thunderbolts, Wonder Man, and Avengers Kang Dynasty. Those 4 movies, according to a rumor, are all getting axed. They are not in fact happening. And actually, as I was doing research for today, before I came to film, another source came forward and was talking more stuff about the Avengers Kang Dynasty situation, but we're going to get to that actually a little bit later in the rumor mill. So first up, we're going to do these 4 movies individually as far as percentages go. So first up, we have Blade. I give it about 20% likelihood that they are going to completely cancel the Blade series. That just doesn't make any sense. They've put so much behind this. Mahershala Ali is actually kind of freaking perfect as Blade. So there's a lot of fan hype, and I think that's kind of what Feige is starting to pay more attention to these days, is the fans really like Mahershala Ali as Blade. Let's keep that. Now, are they completely scrapping everything involved right now? Probably. That seems to jibe with what we've been hearing, but is the series canceled? No. I do not believe that. We're going to put this at 20% likely that the Blade series on Disney Plus has been canceled, just because, again, they've spent way too much time promoting this and gotten the fans super hype about it at this point, and just doesn't make any sense. And the next one is Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts being completely canceled. Again, I don't necessarily think that is the case. This is another one. We have production stills. We have so much promotion out here. Slightly more likely, but ever so slightly more likely than the Blade cancellation. But still, this one almost, it seems like it's further along in production, so they have a little bit more to work with. I don't know. Just, we have the art, we have the promotion, that they wouldn't have put this much money into it to completely get rid of it. Will they rework it to death? Probably. Is it going to be canceled? 25% likely that is the way this is going to go, because I just don't buy it there. But then we move into Wonder Man, and we're starting to get a little bit more feasible here, yeah? So Wonder Man, much less has gone into the promotion of Wonder Man. Yahya Abdul-Mateen II is also a noteworthy actor, probably not to the same level as Mahershala Ali. Mahershala Ali obviously has, Oscars under his belt at this point, and Yahya, not so much. But still a bit of a name. We don't know exactly how much production was done before the writer's strike and then actor's strike started, so there is potentially some stuff that they've already filmed, and so then much more money invested into this, which would make this more likely to be still happening. As it stands right now, though, I'm putting about a 40% likelihood that we're going to see an announcement about the cancellation of Wonder Man. I still don't think it will happen, but there is a bit of evidence suggesting that it is a possibility. And then the final one is Avengers Kang Dynasty. This one, I'm just going to come out the gate with the number, because it's a different way to do this. So we're looking at about 50-50 for Avengers Kang Dynasty at this point, because Jonathan Majors' court is about to start, and that is 100% what this is hinging on. If he loses his court case, if he loses these domestic violence, I'm pretty sure is what the charges are. If he loses against domestic violence charges, they're going to drop him. They're going to pivot. They're going to go into a different direction, and I don't think, even though it would be perfectly acceptable to do this, I don't think what they're going to do is just recast the role of Kang the Conqueror. What they're more likely to do is go with a completely different character, because Kevin Feige is Kevin Feige. So, but because this is dependent on outside factors that it's either make or break, we have to go 50% with this, because again, it is on other things that this is relying. So that's what we got there. Let's move over to DC for a moment, but just for a moment, and we're going to talk about apparently there is a Question series that is in the works for HBO Max. Again, Max, I'm sorry with the HBO. There's a lot of very interesting things. James Gunn is into obscure characters. The Question isn't super obscure, but ask any casual Batman fan, quote unquote, and who the Question is, and I would say probably 40% generously will be able to answer that question. No pun intended. So yeah, this is a character that is just obscure enough that the normie fans will be like, who is this and why do I care? But enough of the hardcore readers will be like, interesting. Tell me more. So that's honestly that. And then the source is actually a pretty good source for this one. So we're looking at about a 60% likelihood that they were correct, and we will be seeing the question as a serialized or episodic content over on Max. Then let's jump back over to Disney. This one, honestly, probably should have gone in as a movie update, but I could not get 100% confirmation that this is what's going on. So, Snow White, we have, obviously, Disney's live-action Snow White has been a little bit of an entertaining piece of news to follow, because boy, did they really lean into some of the wrong. Anyway, so the rumor is that the movie has been pushed back a year, and that Disney is going to make an official announcement sometime soon, and they're going to blame it on the writer's strike, when really it is Bob Iger's promise of retooling and pulling back on certain things. This is a middling source, but we were supposed to see a trailer this past week, and it did not happen. So that is the reason why this has got a whole hell of a lot of credence. We're putting about a 95% stamp on this, because we now have new promotional art showing us a very different looking live action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Actually, just Snow White, because dwarves are offensive. Even though that is literally the name of the affliction in some cases. Anyway, yeah, so 95% likely that we will be seeing Snow White pushed back a whole year, sometime very soon, actually. Next, we have an honestly hopeful rumor, which we don't get those very often. We have Five Nights at Freddy's is being rumored to be greenlit for a sequel already. With it bringing in the numbers that it's bringing in, that makes a lot of sense. Let's hope, though, that they don't drive this one into the ground, and they maybe leave it at a trilogy and just kind of call that good, because I'm sure they could make a trilogy's worth of quality with this, but anything beyond that becomes highly questionable. So we're going to say approximately 85% likely that this is a thing, because it's not one of the biggest, whatever, 85%. That's all you really need to know. From there, we're going back over to Disney with Thor 5. There is a new rumor, because it seems that it's been known that Hemsworth's contract at least brings him through a fifth Thor movie, whatever his renegotiated contract was from a few years ago. So that part, I guess, is not really rumor. That's fairly well-known information at this point. But the movie itself apparently is looking for a new director, and that is the rumor this time. It is no longer going to be directed by Taika Waititi. Disney wants to go in a different direction, and I think that this is more evidence that Feige is listening to the community, though there's definitely other things, I don't know how much of it we're going to get into today, that suggest he's still kind of playing the fingers in his ears, I'm going to do what I want kind of stuff. But yeah, Thor 5, we're going to say 50% on this one. It's not the greatest source, but then there is the, Hemsworth is going through at least a fifth movie, so yeah, balance that out. From there, we're going to go back over to DC again. We're going to talk about the Deathstroke movie. I'm sorry, not movie, just Deathstroke existing in DC. Joe Manganiello is once again being rumored to be Deathstroke. Previously, it came true because we saw him as Deathstroke, but now with James Gunn and Peter Safran, seems a little not possible. Largely because he would be so dramatically older than everyone else that we know has been cast in roles where Deathstroke should be a more comparable age. I mean, I don't know, I guess more recent portrayals of Deathstroke have him a fair bit older than Bruce, but is he really, though, that much older than Bruce? I don't know. Yeah, so Joe Manganiello returning as Deathstroke. We're going to say about 30% here. He's got Dungeons and Dragons to deal with, man. So it just doesn't strike me that he would come back to Deathstroke when there's not going to be a movie or anything out of it. From there, we have back to Disney. Back to Disney, we're talking about the live-action Moana. This new rumor has Zendaya in the lead role as Moana for the live-action adaptation that is going to feature The Rock as the... I forget the name of the god. It's been so long since I watched Moana. I feel like I'm kind of selling this one just a little bit short, but I feel like Zendaya is got her hands full with Spider-Man, but that's a Disney-related property, so that's not entirely going to exclude her from making this movie, but it is a lot of work to do that, plus she has other projects that we know that she's working on, so it seems a little less than likely, though there is still a fair amount of possibility here. So we're going to say 40%. And again, I think I might be selling it just a little bit short. From there is staying with Disney, this time over on Disney Plus. The TV series Ahsoka has been rumored to be getting a second season. With the uptick in ratings for the second half of the season, that makes total sense. There's really very little that would suggest they wouldn't be doing this, but it's not the greatest source, so I can't necessarily go too hard on it, but I think, 70% likely that we will be seeing a season 2, the announcement of which will probably honestly happen before the end of the year, so we can actually track this one. From there, we have back over to DC, back over to Warner Brothers, we have Scarecrow. Apparently, Matt Reeves is being rumored to be working on a Scarecrow movie for his Elseworlds continuity. Matt Reeves obviously is the one doing the Batman with Robert Pattinson. Yeah, okay. This is the third villain that's being rumored to be getting his own space in the Matt Reeves universe. Just kind of makes sense. I feel like the Scarecrow's a good one to go with too, because just a lot of possibilities. We've already seen one interpretation of it, so that seems to be something that Matt Reeves is doing a bit of, is like harkening back to what has worked pretty well with previous iterations, very largely Christopher Nolan's iteration, but Scarecrow just kind of makes sense. We're going to say about 55%, and that's only because of the source. The actual rumor itself, I think, has a lot of potential to be true. Then back over to Disney, and let's talk about the MCU as a whole, and this is the Jonathan Majors thing we were talking about a moment ago. The new rumor is that Jonathan Majors, who plays Kang, is going to be replaced with Dr. Doom. They're going to find somebody to play Dr. Doom, and should things go south for him in his legal issues, then they're going to pivot from Kang to Dr. Doom. They've already planted the seed in Loki, the last episode of Loki. They kind of undid the importance of Kang the Conqueror, and so they're making the option available. Whether or not they actually take it very much depends on his court case, like we talked about. So this one as well, we're going 50% possible that we will be seeing Dr. Doom going forward instead of Kang the Conqueror. Eventually, we're going to see Dr. Doom anyway. It's just, is he going to replace Kang, or is he going to become a force unto himself? That is where this rumor comes in. Then from there, we have, staying this time with Disney, Disney Marvel even, we have a new Avengers rumor. This is a very new Avengers rumor saying that Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson both will likely be returning for some sort of appearance, be it a cameo or a small part. I don't think that the rumor doesn't explicitly say what the part is going to be, but it does say that it's very possibly going to be in the Avengers, the Secret Wars. There we go. It's very likely going to be the Secret Wars movie that we see them. So is it going to go past this? The rumor does not say. It's very kind of vague in that, we're going to see Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson reprise their roles as Iron Man and Black Widow, respectively. It's the multiverse. They can do whatever the hell they want. Let's hope they make it make sense. We have, for this though, we have a 55% likelihood, because there is another source. There's a couple of sources on this. I really don't think, I think somebody's trying to feed false information into sources. I think that Robert Downey Jr. has checked out. I think that Scarlett Johansson has checked out. They're no longer these characters. There was even one of the sources went on to include Chris Evans into the rumor. So that is, again, a little bit of a red flag when it comes to this, which is why we can't go any higher than 55%. And that's probably a little bit generous. Then we have Mortal Kombat 1 new rumors. Combat Pack has been data mined, so technically it has not been announced, which is why it is still a rumor. Combat Pack 2, actually it's more than just Combat Pack 2. It is DLC story expansion is happening, much like I said was likely to happen when the game launched. And so we have kind of two separate things. We're going to roll it up into one because it's all the same data mine. So in the data mine, we have Sector, Cyrax, and Noob Saibot are going to be major players in the campaign DLC, so the story mode DLC. Whether or not that translates into them joining the main roster remains to be seen, but it does seem to be very, very, very likely, according to the data miners involved. So that's those three, and then we have three other characters that are going to be part of Combat Pack 2, and that is Cassie Cage, Kung Jin, and Jade. Yeah, Cassie Cage makes sense because we have Takeda. Kung Jin makes sense because he was honestly a little bit more popular than I think people want to admit in Mortal Kombat X. And Jade has already been alluded to in the story mode and in like the intros into the fights and stuff. So that just kind of makes sense. And then this is where we get interesting. So Ghostface, we actually I think have talked about previously. And what was the other one? Did I seriously not write down the other cameo? T-1000. We already talked about the T-1000. Duh. So Ghostface, T-1000, and Conan the Barbarian are rumored to be the three guest characters for Combat Pack 2. We already talked about T-1000. This is the second time we've talked about it. Ghostface, I think we alluded to it previously, the possibility of it. It was either going to be Ghostface or Michael Myers because of the picture that Ed Boon posted on his Twitter feed. And now that the data mine has happened, it seems to be Ghostface because some of the lines of dialogue are referencing movies and scary movies and what's your favorite scary movie and so on and so forth. So it's just a lot of like really heavy-handed, this is what it is, without telling you this is what it is. And then the really interesting one was Conan the Barbarian. That one kind of comes out of left field. I don't really know how I feel about that, but it could be cool. And then also apparently the cameo characters have been data mined as well. We have Kintaro, Shinnok, Li Mei, Liu Kang, and Quan Chi. So Li Mei, Liu Kang, Quan Chi, all three are going to be playable characters by the time the Combat Pack 2 rolls around. So very interesting that we're going to get more mainline roster characters in as cameo characters. It seems like a waste of an opportunity, but it's not my game to develop, so I got nothing for you. But because this is a data mine from the data miner himself, and Interloco I think is the other one, but the Thinny is the guy who always has the information, and this is where it comes from. So there's very little doubt in my mind that this will not come to fruition. So we're going to say 95% likely that this leak for Mortal Kombat 1 is accurate. We'll give it a little bit of wiggle room, but I don't think it needs it. But then we have one more rumor left. The last rumor this week has to do with Disney once again. This is a little bit more meta though. It doesn't have anything to do with the content necessarily. It has everything to do with the way through which you get your content, and that is Hulu. This rumor has it that Disney is set to buy out the remaining shares. I believe it's from Comcast. They're going to buy out the remaining shares from Comcast for $8.6 billion with a billion dollars. No time frame was given for the rumor, just that it's poised to happen. Yeah, again, there's no reason to not think this is happening. We've already got indication that this was where Disney was trying to go to begin with. So 90% likely here that this is actually going to be a thing, and that kills our very special episode for the week, nerds. Again, few edits. This is going to be a quick one so that we can get it up and we can get the conversation rolling. But thank you very much for sticking through my ramblings and such. Just been a very interesting few weeks, and it stands to be an interesting couple of weeks going forward too still. So as things happen, stay tuned to the community tab on the YouTube channel or the social medias or what have you. And I will keep you informed as soon as things develop. Until then, nerds, thank you very much for joining me. We will see you in the next one. Don't forget to check previous episodes for any news you may have missed. If you want to go deeper into the nerd news rabbit hole, that is the best way to do it. We'll see you next time. There will be an episode next week. It just might be a little bit late, so keep that in mind. And yeah, before we head out, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.